Hi, Pat the Podcast Editor here. How can you take your business from small local deals to big corporate contracts? Well, in today's episode, Dan and Lloyd discuss their foolproof steps to skyrocket any business into the big leagues.
You want to attract more of the bigger clients that have more budget, that value what you do more, that don't take up as much of your time. If you do the things that we've done, it's proven to work. We've literally evidence of that.
You'll also hear about Dan talk about his early business days as a part-time consultant and a part-time dog walker.
Used to go around there to do kind of consultancy and advise them, but ended up, whenever I went there, they just say, "Oh, can you walk my dog?" I'd get there and they'd go, "You want to take him out, don't you, Dan?" And I'd be like,
Why do they talk to you like a dog?
I don't know.
You want to take him out?
Right, let's get stuck in. This is episode 92 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
How did we go from working with micro businesses to working with global brands, Lloyd?
One step at a time.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's been, obviously we'll say more than that in this episode.
Hopefully.
But I think that's been a key thing, that we've been taking small steps to our big goals we have, to working with bigger and bigger clients with bigger budgets, being able to do more creative stuff and the work we want to, the work that's going to help us achieve our goals. But we've been taking small steps over years, rather than like, this episode won't be, oh, here's the hack to work with a global brand, because there isn't a hack to do that immediately.
I was going to say there's been no silver bullet. There's been doing a whole range of things.
There's definite strategies and steps we've taken consistently over a long period of time that have proven to work, but there's no shortcut of like, oh, next week go and work with Adidas, even though you've never done any of this work before.
And I think the reason I wanted to do this episode is because we recently did one of our most ambitious shoots to date with a global brand in partnership with a very popular series. It's on Netflix and has been on BBC.
And not even a global brand where businesses just say global brand, because if you say global, it sounds good. It really is.
Genuinely is a household name brand that you all would have heard of. And I thought, I was just doing some reflecting and I was really proud of the team. And I thought, I reckon there's lessons from how we've got from working with, you know, your local hotel to global brands. I think anchors, you know, even anchors who might not have their own businesses, but they're marketers who are looking to up their marketing game. There's things we've learned over the years that I think you anchors will find useful.
Because some people, if you're new to following our kind of, mine and Dan's business journey and how our business has grown, you might see stuff and think like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Because a lot of people say to us, oh, it's amazing this project you did. Or you've worked with this company, and it is. But just to be clear, we started just working with anyone that would give us any money to try and grow the business. So we've been on all the steps along the way.
And if you want a real laugh, go on our YouTube channel, just search Knowlton. Some of our first videos are horrendous. And you'll see like the caliber of work we were doing, which was terrible.
Horrendous, but we needed to take those steps. And it was interesting at first, when Dan was doing more of the delivery of work, it was strange how all of our clients were either women or gay men. That seemed to be a pattern when Dan was a young, naive businessman going into these small businesses.
I never thought of it like that, Lloyd.
No, but on reflection, it's true, isn't it?
Yeah, it was interesting where we started out, because I think it's important to talk about the kind of journey. So we started out working with, what types of businesses, Lloyd? Give us a lowdown on the types of businesses we started working with.
Like a local hotel, like small B&B style hotel, and things like, a local cafe in a small town. It was those sort of businesses, small budgets, you know, working directly with a business owner that might have had 1, 2, 3 staff. It was that kind of thing.
Yeah. And then, so from there, just to address, by the way, I've got terrible hay fever, so sorry that I sound mental.
If you're watching this Dan's not crying because he's emotional, reflecting on the business.
I just feel awful.
Yes, but you're pushing through it.
Yeah.
It's good, mate.
But sorry, to go back to that. So we started with those really small local businesses.
Yeah.
And over the years, has it been about 7 years now? It must have been about 7
I
years.
always lose track. 6, I think.
6, yeah. So we started with those kinds of businesses. Then we actually started to, like, what I call like stepping stone clients. We started to go up a peg or two. So I remember... we worked with that company, made the coffee video.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a company that is maybe turning over $1 million.
Yeah,
And it kind of like not gone from your really local small businesses to, you know, slightly larger businesses that had a number of employees and things. And then
and it's those steps as well. There were times along the journey where we'd worked with a bigger business that might be like turning over millions or hundreds of thousands, depending on when it was during the journey. But we might have worked with them in a very small way. So there's that as well. You know, it may be that we worked with a slightly bigger business on something that was hugely important for them and they put all their budget behind, or there were steps along the way where there were these really big businesses that we were just, you know, we might have done a couple of hours training with them. So it's those kind of steps as well.
So the first thing, if you're listening, anchors, is to manage your own expectations of this process. This isn't going to be what you all want, a quick 3-step guide to, you know, working
Will there
with...
be steps though?
There will be steps.
Okay.
Like we've
Not
got
3 steps.
No, there's multiple steps that we're going to go through in detail, but this is a process that if you want to learn from this, from what we've done, you need to be doing this consistently over years, literally over years. It's not just going to happen tomorrow. So I know that will scare a lot of people off and think, oh, I can't be bothered to listen to the rest of this episode because it's going to take years. But honestly, if you do the things that we've done, it's proven to work. We've literally evidence of that.
So quickly, before we get into those steps and that we've taken to do that over the years, can you tell us, have you got any funny stories of the early days so people can really understand how rubbish we have been?
Yes, okay. Oh God, some of these are horrible to remember. I remember my first group training session. Okay, so I think this was actually the first ever piece of work I did.
Oh, really?
Which was, remember I went to a local networking breakfast group, you know, where you go and have a fry-up every week.
Fry-up and pretend that you're busy.
Yep, and there was lots of local businesses, small local businesses, cafes, hotels, the lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a group training thing at a casino, which was really weird in itself.
Training the casino?
No.
Oh.
The location was the casino.
Right.
The reason for that was because we met at the casino for breakfast. So I just asked the casino owner, can I do a training thing here?
Oh, the breakfast was in a casino?
Yeah.
Networking?
And
Okay.
weirdly, when we moved locations a number of times, that one, all the eggs were like snot. Have you...
Oh.
You know, like when you have like a poached egg and it's all there, it's rank. Anyway.
Okay. So don't eat eggs at casinos is the
first lesson.
the key point.
But I did a group training, and I one of the biggest flaws with what I used to do was over prepare and try and do too much. So I had spent weeks developing this 1-day session, and the poor people that attended, within an hour, they were like, you know, like even one of them said, this is a bit too much for me, and it was like an hour in. I was like, oh my God, there's 7 more hours of this. So it was just way too much for everyone. And I wanted to, my thought process was, I want to give them as much value as possible. I want to teach them everything. But actually that had overwhelmed them and made them not have a good experience with
Try to teach them absolutely everything you knew in one day.
Yes.
Which, of course, can't be done.
No. So that was kind of awkward when all these people look at you an hour in, sort of ready to leave.
And you're all in a casino at 10 a.m. thinking, great.
Yeah.
I probably like that. I'm imagining the dark, you know, casinos usually don't have windows and stuff. You're just in this dark room.
Yes.
An hour into a very intense young Dan.
And I was obviously quite nervous and it really showed. And
sweating through.
That was just, and I was obviously wearing a suit for no reason because I thought that would make me look like I know what I was talking about.
Makes you better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You don't need to know what you're doing. Just wear a suit.
That was your thought process anyway, Lloyd.
Worked for a couple of years.
So that was one of the bad ones. Another one was weirdly used to have a client. I won't go into details, but used to go around there to do kind of consultancy and advise them. But ended up, whenever I went there, they just say, "Oh, can you walk my dog?" And I'd sort of be like, they were paying me to do consultancy, but they'd make me walk their dog.
That's how much they valued Dan's guidance. That they were like, I will pay you the same hourly rate to go and walk my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was strange. I remember when you come out like, oh yeah, we did a couple of hours of this stuff, and then I walked Ben for half an hour.
Yeah.
Strange. And it was one of those where a client's asking you to do them a favour. I reckon the first time I would have been like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, sure, I'll take him out for a bit, yeah.
But I'd get there and they'd go, you want to take him out, don't you, Dan? And I'd be like,
Why did they talk to you like a dog?
I don't know.
You want to take him out?
Yeah, so there's a couple of interesting ones.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you remember anything from the early days that...
Well, I worked with the same dog walking client.
Yeah. But
That's-
any part of your kind of stuff that you were doing?
Yeah, well, with that, I mean, it was trying to train them on some stuff,
Oh, I
and
remember.
they would just be awkwardly arguing with each other the whole time. 'Cause there was a couple that ran the business, and so like if I had an hour with them, it would be like 40 minutes of them just
Bickering.
bickering, and I'd kind of awkwardly, can we carry on now? And then it gets to the end, like, oh, sorry, we haven't got through much, have we? And I'm thinking like, no. I mean, like you were saying, I prepared for hours for training them on this stuff, and they just preferred to argue with each other, and yeah, so there was stuff like that.
It's
But,
interesting.
like,
You go on.
sorry, tell me something interesting.
No, go on.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say, as the sort of not caliber of client, but as you start to work with bigger companies, that kind of thing doesn't tend to happen as much.
Yeah, because people lose their jobs if they react like that. If they're not, business owners, or they're the only person, they can do what they want in reality. But once you're dealing with employees of a business, if they just argue through a training session they've paid for,
Yeah.
their boss is usually like, can you not do that? Or if you are going to just leave, don't come back. But also moving through the steps, we'll get to these steps. As we worked with bigger and bigger businesses, most people would think it would be harder dealing with the client, but it actually, for me, I believe it becomes easier and easier, because the smaller businesses, they're usually investing in whatever you're doing, and the investment with you is a really, really big decision to take that, because they might be spending 20% of the money coming in on your support, so it's a big thing. And so they want to know every tiny detail. They want to understand everything, even though it doesn't make sense for them to understand the process. They want calls with you all the time, whereas the bigger clients, they might be spending 0.5% of their budget with you on this particular support, and they've got lots of other important things going on. So they're hiring you to support and leaving you to it rather than micromanaging you, and it allows everyone to do a much better job. So that's a really interesting part of the journey.
Yeah.
But let's get into the steps
Okay.
to go from working with hotel owners walking their dogs to global brands.
So here are those steps. And this is just from our experience. Step number 1, hone your craft. I think one of the ways we have really developed over the years, it sounds simple, but is to practice and learn by doing. So when we started out and we said, we can help you with your social media, we were building our own social media channels. We were learning, constantly reading articles, learning new strategies, going to events to learn about how we could improve our social media skills. So the first step is really to focus on honing your craft and doing whatever you can do to get as good as you can at it. Maybe that's getting qualifications, if you're an accountant, or it's getting training, or...
I think this is the mistake most people make, to not working with bigger clients over the years and just staying with those small businesses, because there are a lot of coaches and people doing courses and stuff that teach you how to sell to these bigger clients and to raise your prices and all this sort of stuff. And I see it online all the time. And I know that in the long term, it just won't work for you. There isn't,
because they're not actually good.
You're not good enough yet to work with the bigger client. And
that's not like being condescending or anything.
No.
It's just like we weren't good enough to sell to global brands.
I think if you're working with like one-man bands and very small businesses at the moment, and you think you're good enough to work with the biggest brands in the world, you're probably wrong. I think we've all got to accept that we have so much to learn, and if you think you know everything and you're good enough to work with those brands at the moment, but you're not, I think it'd be good to reflect and actually think, no, I've still got a lot of learning to do, because just focusing on how to win the bigger clients rather than focusing on being able to do a better job for those clients is where I think the biggest mistakes made a lot of the time.
That's such a good point. And I think this is where the whole grow via stepping stone clients comes in. If you're working with small local hotels like we were 6 or 7 years ago, don't expect to, in a week's time, work with global brands. Over years, you need to slowly increase the caliber of the client that you're working with. And across that period of time, that gives you an opportunity to hone your skills and hone your craft, to try different types of projects and different work so that you're constantly developing and the quality of what you're doing is evolving in line with the caliber of client that you're working with. That's a really good point.
Even if you get a lucky break and you've been on one of these courses that tell you to double your prices and attract these bigger clients, if you don't improve what you do, that will just be a one-off. So you'll do that. At some point they'll realize that you're not delivering at a level that they need you to, and you'll go back down to working with the smaller budgets and the smaller clients. So in the long term, it doesn't make sense, and that takes loads of your resources, and you're back to square one. So I think out of all the steps, this is the one most people miss and never get on to the other steps.
Step 2, build the right relationships. Your net worth is your network. Is that the saying? No, your net's work is your net worth.
Cheesy.
That is the cheesiest thing we've ever said on the podcast. But it does hold some truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if looking back at a lot of the opportunities that have come our way, they've come because we've built relationships with the right people at the right time. So really think about who in your industry can you start to build relationships with, not just people who you want to become your clients, but who knows your clients, who already has an influence over your clients that you can start to build a relationship with, and we've done this through a number of ways. In the early days, looking back, we wrote for some industry leading publications and built relationships with people who owned those big media outlets that allowed us to get our message to their audience. That was one kind of approach we've taken. We've built relationships with other marketers like us who work in different parts of the country, who have opportunities come their way that aren't right for them, that they can pass on to us. So really think about that.
Most people talk about referrals and word of mouth, as in they work for a client and then they refer them to another business. But we've taken it to another level, and I would encourage any of you listeners to do it, where we've had work referred from a business owner that sat at a table at an awards ceremony with us once. And we just were normal people and being nice and interested in what he had to say. And that grew to us winning a client. We've won work from other marketers, as Dan said, which a lot of people see as competition, who have passed over leads to us that weren't quite right for them. And we've made hundreds of thousands from those referrals from people that are competitors in most people's eyes. So it's not just referrals and like networking and getting those recommendations from people you've worked with. It's all of the other people you're meeting day to day in your business that's really important as well.
And I think they need to be genuine relationships as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can sniff a mile off if someone's just trying to be like, hey, what do you do? Here's my business card. Like, it needs to be genuine, and it needs to be kind of mutually beneficial rather than just...
There's people that just try and do it as like a hack of, I'm going to build relationships with people, but they don't really give a shit. You can tell they're talking to you and they're asking all these questions, but it's like a robot, like pretending to be interested in you.
Like when we were in San Diego at like a networking party out there, and a woman literally interrupted a chat we were having with these two lovely women, shoved her business card in Lloyd's face.
Two lovely women?
In a business scenario.
Okay. Ooh.
Shoved their business card in Lloyd's face and said, but basically asking him, what problems do you have with this kind of thing? So that she could go, we've got the solution. And it was just really
rubbish.
Cringe. But yeah. Step number 3, milk the top 10%.
Sorry.
Stop talking over me, Lloyd. When we transcribe this, it's difficult because you talk over me.
3.
Okay. So milk the top 10%. What we mean by milk to the top 10% is, remember earlier I mentioned those stepping stone clients?
Yes.
The clients that are taking you up a notch in terms of the caliber. They may be a larger client. They may be more well-known. They may be more credible. Whenever you work with those clients that are taking you up to that next level, you need to milk the hell out of that in terms of with your marketing to tell the world, look at this great work we've done with this client that's of this caliber. And what that's going to do is attract more of those higher caliber clients, rather than, you may still do some work with a small local hotel or a small cafe, but you don't really want to attract more of those. You want to attract more of the bigger clients that have more budget, that value what you do more, that don't take up as much of your time.
So that's where you're milking the
I've heard
top
a lot
10%.
of people talking about this, saying like, "Oh, I've had these 1 or 2 clients, and the budgets for them and what I charge is like 10 times what most of the work I do is." And then you look at their marketing, and you don't see any evidence of those big projects that they want to win more of. You just see say they're £10,000 projects. You see all of this evidence of these £1,000 projects in their marketing, and you kind of think, well, what you're showing the world is that I do these £1,000 projects. So there's not going to be a £10,000 or a £12,000 project looking at your marketing and thinking that's the right person for me. So yeah, it makes logical sense when you think of it, but it's hard to get in that mindset sometimes.
Exactly. And here's a practical example of how we're about to do this. So we mentioned that we did one of our most ambitious projects yet with a global brand, teamed up with a Netflix series. As soon as that project goes live, we are going to be milking the hell out of it. So we're going to be plastering it all over our website and putting it as a case study on our website and prominent on our homepage and really creating a whole load of content to promote that.
Sorry, I was just laughing because I was thinking you're saying really good stuff and I'm just mooing over you, just being not adding any value. Apologies. Moo.
Really great addition to the podcast.
Yes, thank you. What's step 4 then?
Step number 4, constantly innovate. So even if what you do works really well and you're currently in a place where you're like, we're really attracting lots of great clients and our whole marketing strategy is working really well, we've learned from this, you don't want to become complacent, because what you're doing now to attract those clients isn't necessarily going to work as well in 1 month, in 6 months, in 2 years. So you constantly need to be thinking, what are the latest platforms? What are some new techniques? What are some new approaches that we can start using to attract new clients? I'll give you an exact example of this. So in 2017, we discovered this new approach to marketing. We call it advertainment, where you produce entertaining content that attracts new clients. And one of the types of content we did in that kind of scenario was skits or sketches, where we acted out relatable marketing situations. And then in that skit or sketch, we would have some key messages to sell what we did as an agency, and it worked incredibly well, and a load of our work came from that approach. But even when we're at the height of that generating new business for us, Lloyd and I sat down and said, we're in a situation now where this is working incredibly well, but we need to look for new ways to get business. And I remember you even saying this to me, because we can't just rely on that forever. So then we you know, like we always say, 20% of your marketing should be testing new things. Our Business Anchors podcast. This podcast was a test in February 2020. It's now one of our biggest revenue generators. We're now looking to grow on TikTok, to really experiment with the content on there. In the future, I believe that's going to be one of our biggest revenue generators. So it's constantly about innovating.
I agree. No mooing from me. Step 5.
Step 5, hire people who are more skilled than you. When we look back at the terrible videos I used to make...
Sorry, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we were in agreement. They were terrible. Then Lloyd came on board and the videos were much, much better.
Absolutely brilliant. Perfect.
When you used to use Cyberlink Pro to edit your videos.
Cyberlink, yeah.
Was it called Cyberlink Pro?
Something like that. Cyberlink Director Pro, I think.
Yeah. And then since then, we're always looking to hire people who are more skilled at their craft than we ever have been, because that's going to help us increase...
This is a game changer, and last week was a great example of this on the shoot that we did last week, where we took most of our team over working on that shoot, and to see everyone working together and with the other people we're working with, actors and some freelance people we're working with as well, it was amazing to see. I think at any one point there were 5 to 10 people doing much better than me and Dan could have ever done in those roles. So if you think about it, of course, you're going to be doing much better work if you've got those people doing so brilliantly at their thing that they're good at. And this is another one where I think a lot of people don't get past. People want or think that they need to know everything, otherwise their employees won't kind of... I think it's like they won't respect them because they need to know more than them, where I think it's the complete opposite. You need to be basically supporting these people that are better than you to do a brilliant job, and just giving them any support they need, but not expecting to know absolutely everything, because that's just going to be impossible to build your business if you need to know more than everyone else.
Great point.
There's some stuff that me and Dan know more about, obviously, the things that we're responsible for.
I think the bigger picture, like vision for the business and stuff, that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
And constantly
That's what
innovating.
we've got to be better than anyone else at. And we won't expect Taylor, who's in the room now, to be better at that side of things. Maybe one day we will. But at the moment, just like Taylor won't expect me to be doing what he does, setting up all the cameras and making all our videos brilliant and everything.
They'd be terrible if you did that.
Exactly. Well, I used to, and you can see the massive difference. And Taylor's much better than me at that. So yeah. I mean, we should do a swap one day and just see how terrible we both are at the things we're not good at.
Yes, that'd be good. Step 6.
Oh, there's more.
Focus on personal development. There's only a couple more.
Okay.
Focus on personal development. Something we really try and do a lot of is focusing on learning new things. Lloyd and I both listen to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of audio or books on audio books, and consume a lot of content to really try and be sponges to soak up as much information as possible to learn new things, especially in our industry where things are changing literally every hour. There's a new update going on a social platform, or there's a new platform to look out for. We need to stay up to date with all of that stuff, and we focus a lot of and also we kind of both enjoy learning stuff.
But it relates to the first step, the point I made when you said about the first step of getting better at what you do. If we were thinking now that we just know everything we need to know to be the biggest and most creative agency in the world, then we would fail. Well, I think we know that there's so much more we need to learn to keep taking those steps and doing better and better work and learning.
Yeah. And step 7, final step, is to keep a level head. Again, from our experience, in business is like a roller coaster. There's lots of ups and downs on the journey of growing your business. It's never just an uphill.
Life is a roller coaster, just gotta ride it. Oh yeah.
Thanks, Lloyd. You have been brilliant in this episode.
I think that was Ronan Keating that sang that. Maybe.
That's it. Where were we when we were talking about good stuff?
Sorry. Ronan.
So it's full of ups and downs, and I think in the early days, I remember when we won like a project that was maybe a couple of £1,000, and to us at the time we'd won the lottery. We would literally stop working and like go down the pub and be like, well, let's book a holiday. And now we've obviously realised that we're much more conservative now, and even when we've had massive highs, like for example, I think the last month or two have been one or two of our best months ever in the business, but I don't feel like in my mind I'm celebrating because there's still a long way to go. So I'm thinking, okay, that's fine, but what about the next, 6, 12
More about
months?
the kind of trend line of where things are going rather than because there's lots of up and downs along the way. So obviously we're going in the right direction and gradually we're heading towards our goals. But when you have that big peak of something brilliant happening, it's also understanding, there'll be challenges as well, and it's not just always up. And it won't be always down when you have those challenges. It will.
And it is important to be conservative with your kind of cash flow as well. If you've got a massive new deal and then they pay you a chunk of that money, don't suddenly go out and like buy a new car or watch, because
we had this I think last month it just worked out that a number of clients paid chunks at the same time. So if we looked at that, we, be again like, hey, let's go on holiday. Obviously, we've got to spend all that money on stuff to deliver the work and
pay all our staff
wages. So you can't look at that month, the next 2 or 3 months, because we've had all that payment. We're going to be spending that money now. So you've got to look at the big picture and ride the highs and lows. Life is a roller coaster. You've just got to ride it.
Ride it.
Oh yeah.
Cool. So there's the steps. Hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into our journey from working with small, local micro businesses to global brands. And do keep an eye out for this latest project we've done. There'll be a case study on our website, and we're constantly posting behind the scenes content on our socials. So if you found this useful as well, please let other people know about the Business Anchors podcast, because hopefully more people will gain value from this.
And let us know in 5 years when you've done all those steps. And it'll take a while, but it'll be worth it. Life is a roller coaster. You've just got to ride it.
Oh yeah.